All right, hello everybody. Very excited to show you guys a new tool that Google has put inside of Google Classroom. It is the start of something really big. It's going to be a game changer for us. But even though it's just the start of something big, it is something we can use right now. All right, so let's go ahead and check it out. I have my first assignment here, one of my assignments that I gave to my students. It was them taking notes, and I want to give them some feedback on their notes. So I'm going to go ahead in here to review work. And when I click on that, it's going to pop up just like it always does where we see all of our students' work. The key thing here, the new thing here is going to be right down at the bottom where it says help me write. When I click on help me write, this is going to be our feedback button. When I click on help me write, it's going to pull up Gemini for me. This is a form of Gemini where I can prompt it to give my students feedback. So I'm going to tell it my grade level, which is 8th grade. And then I'm going to go ahead and prompt to tell what I want it to focus on. Now, if I had a rubric, I could put in here, focus on this section of the rubric, or tell my students how they're doing based on these different parts of the rubric, or tell my students what grade they would get on this section of the rubric, or whatever it is you can prompt based on the rubric that you have. I don't have a rubric attached, so I just want to give some general feedback. So I'm going to tell it to focus on organization. And then I'm going to say, give the student glows and grows. And when I do that, once I feel like, okay, that's what I'm looking for, I'm going to go ahead and click suggest feedback. And you're going to see, just like all of our other AI, it takes just a couple of seconds. And then after a couple of seconds go by, it will pop up with lots of good feedback for my students. So you can see I have positive feedback. That's our glows. I have some improvements my student can make. That's our grows. I don't know why it doesn't label it as glows and grows. It says positive and improvements, but it is editable. So I can go ahead and put in glows here, and I could put in grows here because that's what my students are used to seeing by now. If I've been using AI feedback for a while, my students are seeing these quite often, these words, so they know what that means. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read through it, make sure I am happy with what I see here. But the problem that I'm actually seeing is that this may not be easy for my students to really digest. I want to make this easy for my students to just quickly see, get the feedback, and move on. So Google has actually provided us with this wonderful button down here that is called Refine. When I click on that Refine button, it gives me lots of choices here. It lets me regenerate if I didn't like what was there. I can make it more formal or more casual. I can shorten it or make it longer here. But here's the key thing for me, bulletize. This is what's going to make this more digestible for my students. Put it into bullet form so my students can quickly see the feedback. Now you'll notice that when it did that, it did change this board back to positive. So I have to change this again to glows and this to grows. Now, this is something I do have to do for each student individually. I can't do this as a batch feedback or anything like that yet. I can see Google coming out with that pretty soon. But this is one way to get our students feedback almost immediately so that our students can work through their projects a lot faster. All right, I'm going to go ahead now. And when I'm happy with what I see, I'm going to go ahead and click on post to private comment. And now my students have access to that comment, my glows, my grows in bullet form. All right, guys, I'm really excited about this one. I'm very excited to see how it continues to grow and what Google continues to do with this. All right, you guys have a great day.